Hi everyone, welcome to another video of John Drama Paints. This time we'll continue painting the Iron Golem armature together in the color scheme you can see in the picture right now. The third part that we are going to work on is the skin. I hope you'll enjoy it, and if you do, please consider liking and subscribing. In addition, I do have a Patreon where there are weekly video releases similar to the ones you're going to watch right now. So if you liked it and want to see more straight away, consider heading over there and checking it out. The link will be in the description box of this video. Enough advertising for now. Let's dive straight in and paint some minis. Hello guys, and welcome back to yet another video of John Drama Paints. And in this video guys, we're going to be working on the skin. And as you can see by now, I quite like the color scheme that they came in on the box art, but I just wanted to do a non-metallic metal. And I really like the pale skin because I think it kind of adds some cold colors to the quite warm feel that the gold and the red have together. So what I did in preparation of this video, and if you're following this tutorial, is something that I would advise you to do in preparation as well, is first I went over the base coat, which was black. I went over it with Mechanica Standard Gray, and then I mixed up Gray Sear. It's also a new paint I bought, so I want to test it out, and I mixed it up with some Mechanica Standard Gray into roughly a 1-1 mix. I thought it would look something similar to Dawnstone, which I guess it kinda does, a little bit darker, but since those are all layer paints, and I thought this would give me a bit better coverage mixing two base paints together. Turned out made not much of a difference, because I still had to go over it 2 or 3 or 4 times in some areas even to get good coverage. But for now, let's continue with painting this model. Let me just get rid of this stuff, maybe get a new piece of paper. There we go. And what I want to do is first work on some shading. And I thought about mixing in this color that we use as a base coat with about a 1-1 of Storm Vermin Fur, because I want to get some of that brown in, even though it's fairly subtle, and it's kind of, I don't know, Storm Vermin Fur I think is a pretty cool color. And let's just start working it into the shadows. So for example, here on the side, I think this should be a little bit darker, so I'm just gonna paint it in there. Can you see it? Here at the side of the armor, I don't think he needs a highlight, so we'll turn that into a little bit of a shadow color. Just like that. For example, here under the arm, not much light will catch there, so we'll put the initial shadow color there as well. Here under this side of the arm, just, you know, blocking in some of these shadows where we think less light would hit. Since it's still not a fairly, what would you call it? It's not a very strong color yet, so we can just increase and build upon it. So if I hold it like this, this would all catch quite a lot of light. And the shading would primarily be here at the bottom of the arm. Maybe here, maybe there would be a line here. Let me just drag it into there. And here. And just like that, if I hold it closer, you can see that we start by marking out these shapes. So in here, in these recesses, you know, where a shade would normally settle, you would also paint this in. Alternatively, you could use a shade. I have considered it, especially with skin. I might actually do it at some point, but for now we're just gonna start painting it in. So let's see what we have here. Same when we go to the bottom side of the arm, we're just gonna put in some shadow color there, darken it up. Here in the armpit or armpit area, could be pretty dark. Making sure that in between these muscles that we put in the shadow color, get a nice definition of where they are highlighted. Here we're gonna drag it down. It'll all turn out, we still need to work on creating the transitions, but for now we're just blocking in some of the colors. So we're just gonna drag it towards the shadows. And just like that, I suggest you make your way around the model, same as I'm doing now. And see if you can figure out the spots, if you can could use as an exercise to look at your model, you know, and see where you would place the shadow colors. As again, even as just an exercise. If you don't want to do it, you can always shade it as well. But I'm gonna do this around the model and get back to you once I've done it. So see you in the next part. Okay, and with that first layer applied, guys, it's beginning to get some definition on the skin. And I thought first about going straight to the second shadow color, but perhaps we can go to a highlight color and just work our way up one level step, and then afterwards see how we're doing and see if we're going to continue shading or highlighting. So as you can see, the 1-1 mix is which we use as the base. I added some gray sear to it, so I guess it's roughly a 2 to 3 mix between gray sear and Mechanica Standard Gray. And right now I'm gonna focus on the opposite part, so where the light would hit more directly. So the top of these muscles here, right here, right below where they go into the shadows, just to increase contrast and go for that sweet spot for that maximum contrast between those two planes. We're just gonna put it in, for example, just right here. We're gonna drag it up, and here and the side's gonna slide into the shadows, and here again it'll probably be a lot lighter. There we go. And just like that, we're gonna make our way around and start increasing the tone. I'm starting to like it. I really like the pale skin tone on the box art, and we can go a little bit paler still. But for now, not at all dissatisfied with the start of building up this color. It's not always evident. Sometimes it really, to me, it doesn't look good until the final product. It can happen the other way around, that we're painting this and I'm not satisfied with it. But if that's the case, then you'll probably won't see a video released about it. So I guess future me ends up liking the result of the skin. So I did it on this side. Here on the toes, you might wanna mark them out. Can you see it? I'll try and see what I can do with the camera. So you just want to follow these ridges and give that a highlight too. Okay, I'm just gonna color them in a little bit neater, just like that. And there we go. And just like this, guys, make your way around the model, adding that first layer of highlights, and we'll return to you for the next step. So see you in a bit. Okay, here we go. And if you did this along the model, the previous step, it should look something along these lines. What I noticed, guys, is that I forgot to do the hands, so I kind of did those in between as well. When I did the base coat, I really didn't paint in my own shadows yet, but we can do it real fast before we continue. That's fine. Alright, let me just paint this in and then continue with the next step. I thought about strengthening the shadows a bit, but I'm actually gonna continue to push the highlight a little bit, to be fair. And for that, I'm gonna use gray sear. I for some reason always mix in a little bit of the mix that we've building up, but really, once you know, this here is just exactly the same as this here. So it's just gray sear that we're gonna use. And this gray sear we're gonna use to push the contrast on the skin. And first we'll push it to light. So let's start on the chest, and just as it is with the armor parts or with the non-metallic parts, now that we have started and we have applied these first couple of layers, it should become easier and easier to apply these highlights. Sometimes we need to make straight lines, kind of need to hold my breath. But just like that, we're gonna continue to increase the contrast and create that nice, pale, sickly skin that we want for these guys. Maybe it's a girl, I don't know. He does have a metal beard, or she. Pretty masculine kind of looking dwarf. I don't know. Are there lady dwarfs or lady chaos dwarfs? I guess. What else would they be made of? Or how would they be born? I'm wondering if at some point they're gonna release a new Chaos Dwarf army. I would find that incredibly cool. I think this model is super impressive. Love the feel of him, love the whole idea of Chaos Dwarves. So, there we go. And what you see me do here on the side of his arm or his chest, this will be the basis for the whole model. So we're just gonna make our way around and kind of do this all over until you're satisfied with this highlight. There we go. Make sure you don't go over the entirety of the previous mix. You still want to have some of that color transition. So it's good to leave some of the previous mix showing through. So we're gonna do that. Make sure to focus. Now, right now in this video, we can also do the hands. Top of the hand there. Just like in there. The fingers. And there we go. And just like that, we have those highlighted as well. So let's do that all around the model and stay tuned for the next part where we're gonna push the contrast even further. See you in a bit. Okay guys, now let's continue with the next step. And if you followed it so far, this is more or less what your skin tone should look like. What I'm gonna do now is I'm actually gonna push the contrast. So I took some of the grays here and added some Pallid Witch Flesh into roughly a 1-1 mix, more or less. Because I do want the skin to be light and pale, so by pushing the contrast the other direction, we always have that option. But first, I actually wanted to focus on going a little bit lighter. So we're just gonna follow the same principles with this color. Oh, let me see if I can correct that mistake. Feather it out, there we go. And now we can continue painting the skin. There we go, just let it dry. It's quite runny. Let's just have it dry and see what the effect will be. And as you can see, it's gonna get quite pale, which is exactly what we want for the effect that we're going for in this model. And this is a good example of showing you where I went too far. So here you can just go back, and usually you're gonna go back to the mid-tone. I'm gonna go back to the mid-tone mixed in with some grays here, and just correct it a little bit. Just gonna feather it in. The same goes here. All right. And just like that, this highlight's already starting to take effect, and he's getting this really nice, sickly, cool, pale skin. Or at least, I really like it. So, let's just continue around the model. Here this vein, you want to make sure that it catches some light. Here on this muscle, just a little bit, towards the top of this lighter part of this arm muscle. This is, what would that be? Would it be his triceps, I suppose? Here. Gonna add some light to it, and just like that you see how he's really starting to pop. So instead of you know what, I'm gonna do this all over and come back to you for the next step. So stay tuned for the next step, guys. Hello guys, and welcome back. And with that, I think the skin is really starting to take form, but we just want to push the contrast a tad further. Well, maybe even more than a tad. We'll see how this one plays out. And this is pure Pallid Witch Flesh, which we're gonna use now. Opting to go for Pallid Witch Flesh rather than for white is to do because Pallid Witch Flesh is just a little bit warmer. Even though generally speaking, the paint can be quite difficult to work with I have a pot now that does quite okay, but very often I had quite some difficulties with palette witch flash in the past. So maybe they changed something about the formula, or I don't know, maybe I had bad luck, or maybe now I have good luck. Whatever the reason, it is usable to me now, so let's do it. Let's use it. Oh, got some red mixed in there. That was not what we wanted. I just put some over to here and get some water in. And there we go. We get ready to continue placing the highlights as we've been doing all this time, really focusing on these final parts. You don't really have to feather anything in. These are just mostly lines and dots. They really kind of are there to boost the contrast to a maximum. You see, just like that, between these shadows and these colors, you're not really gonna have to blend this in. So I suggest you do this all around your model, and then we're gonna come back, and I'm not sure if I'm done pushing the contrast yet, so maybe we'll go a little bit darker in the shadows, just to, see how far we can push it and still have that amazing result. So here on the fingers, I want some. Now, I suggest you go do this all over, and we'll come back when that is done. Clearly, I am not done yet with this skin. So I actually loaded up some Army Painter matte white on my palette to mix it in with some palette witch flash. And this truly will be the last highlight we're going to apply. I'm just so enthusiastic about painting the skin that I just want to push it all the way. And really, this last part, we're just gonna do the same as we did with the palette witch flash, but even more selectively applying these final highlights, pushing that contrast. So as you see what I've done here on the arms, this will already be the maximum of what we'll be applying. So let's do this all over the model, just there where we suspect light will hit the strongest, and that will be it for highlighting the skin. There we go. And just like that, guys, we have a pretty neat idea of how to achieve the skin on this Iron Golem. So stay tuned, we're gonna shade it, we're gonna bring these colors together a little bit more, and then we'll call it done. Okay guys, welcome back, and to the last part of painting this Iron Golem skin. And we're gonna glaze it all together, or parts together. And on my well palette, I have prepared two glazes, one of them being a glaze of storm vermin fur, one of them being a glaze of rhinox hide, with the usual consistencies of roughly 1 to 5, 1 to 6 parts paint to water. And as you can see, we're just gonna glaze it together, and we're gonna glaze, these are dark colors, so we're gonna glaze them towards the shadows. So from the highlight or halfway, dragging it into the shadowed areas. There we go. And just like that, we're gonna give it a couple of all over passes along all the places on the model where we will find shadows. And this really, I think this is a really soothing technique, and you can spend as much time as you want doing this. You can skip this part altogether if you're already satisfied. But if you want to go that extra mile and kind of solidify those blends, just hide a little bit more imperfections that may, or I want to say almost undoubtedly you have made, because almost no blend is truly perfect. Whether that is always a problem, by the way, is a whole nother discussion, whether you need all blends to be smooth. But if you want to smoothen them up, glazing things together like this can help a lot. I'm not saying that it can hide all mistakes or all imperfections. Therefore, you do want to be neat and work on trying to be able to create these initial blends yourself as neatly as you can. Because when you do that, you'll need less and less time, or not so much time, spending glazing it together. And even though it's enjoyable, you'd rather have your blends nicely beforehand rather than having to rely on the glazing, regardless of how enjoyable this might be to do. I always say it's enjoyable. Maybe it's because I find that it's enjoyable, but actually when I come to it, I'm so hyped for the end result. I'm actually not really enjoying it anymore. I just want it to be over so that I can see what I created, what I painted, and how the blends tie in together. Now, with doing this, I chose Storm Vermin Fur, but you could also opt for some Rhinox hide to like bring some more brown into this. It's still skin, so you could go for a sickly cold look, but especially on the feet and between his toenails, you could use it almost like a half wash, where you would like some of that brown showing through, kind of break the gray a little bit. So what you could do is just specifically for the shadows, just glaze in some of that Rhinox hide, much in the same way as you would do with the Storm Vermin Fur. Some of these areas I went over were not completely dry yet. That is usually something you want to prevent. It's usually advised to wait with going over another glaze or layer of paint in general before the previous one has dried. Unless, of course, that is exactly the technique you're going for, which is the case, for example, in wet blending, but that is not the technique that we are going for. So let's just give it a moment to dry. But altogether, I really enjoyed the blending process that we did, so it shouldn't take too much time to blend this all together. In the end, I might give it a couple of touches with the final highlight color, just to bring that back up again. But in reality, I'm quite satisfied with the result. And there we go. Just adding more and more color along the way. And you can continue to do this for as long as you want, add as much color as you want. I am already quite satisfied with the blends we've created. I'm also worrying that I don't want to undo too much of the work that we worked quite hard to achieve. So I'm going to stop here. As an alternative to Storm Vermin Fur or Rhinox hide, if you want to go even cooler on the skin, you could also opt for glazing in a blue color like Night Lord's blue or Stegadon Scale green or any of the sorts. So I hope this video was helpful to you, and stay tuned for the next part where I think we'll be doing the non-metallic metal for his hammer, the little chainmail here, something with his with the thing on his head. Yeah, we'll do that in the next video. So I'll hope to see you there, guys. Bye bye.